Hey Optimancers, Chris here. The new Spelljammer book was recently released and it has some amazing racial options for players. 6 new racial options: the Astral Elf, the Autognome, the Gif or Jif, the Hadozi, the Plasmoid, and the Thri-Kreen. And I am doing a video for each of these races. And today we are going to look at what I think might be the most unique of all the races in D&D, the Plasmoid. Hi, if you like this content and you would be interested in supporting it, you can do so through Patreon. A link to my Patreon page is in the video description. Today I'd like to thank these top level patrons: Nick Simmons, PCZ, Pedro Davaca, Prometheo NTG, Ramen Goblin, Rohit, RVSP66, Rizquai, Sajin Abraham, Sam S., Scott Dunnington, Scott Shields, Stephen Edmondson, Steve Bouvel, TUM, Tazel, Thomas Barrero, TomTom, Tristan Bello, Vu, Wesley Terpstra, Wick, Zachary Shapiro, Alex C., Hey Mr. Wonderful, Alexander Tinkov, Blue Wolf, and Brian Delgado. Thank you all so much for your support. Let's get started. So let's go over the race, and then I'm going to give you my take on it. So what is a plasmoid? It is essentially a giant amoeba. It can take humanoid shape, but roughly humanoid shape, as you can see in the picture here. And when they do so, they can do things like wear armor or hold things with their quote-unquote hands, or they can be just a big old blob. As a plasmoid, you have the following traits. You are an ooze. You are definitely the only racial option in D&D to be an ooze. Your size is medium or small, and you choose that when you select the race. Your speed is 30 feet walking, or quote-unquote walking. You are amorphous. You can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide, provided you are wearing and carrying nothing. You have advantage on ability checks you make to initiate or escape a grapple. You have dark vision, standard 60 feet, so you can see 60 feet in dim light as if it's bright, or darkness as if it's dim light and you can only see in shades of gray. You can hold breath for up to an hour. You have natural resilience. This gives you resistance to both acid and poison damage, and you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. And then shape self. As an action, you can reshape your body to give yourself a head, 1 or 2 arms, 1 or 2 legs, and makeshift hands and feet. Or you can revert to a limbless blob. When you have a human-like shape, you can wear clothing and armor made for a humanoid of your size. As a bonus action, you can extrude a pseudopod that is up to 6 inches wide and up to 10 feet long, or reabsorb it into your body. As part of the same bonus action, you can use the pseudopod to manipulate an object, open or close a door or container, or pick up or set down a tiny object, and the pseudopod contains no sensory organs and can't attack, activate magic items, or lift more than 10 pounds. Alright, so this is undeniably unique in D&D, but I also think it is deceptively powerful. Now the shape self feature I think is cool. I don't think it's all that powerful. I mean, being able to change from various humanoid shapes to a blob, this is not like a changeling where you're actually appearing like anything. If you take the humanoid shape, you look like this, right? So hardly something that is going to be mistaken for anybody in particular. And then the pseudopod, I mean, it's nice that it has reach. The 10-foot reach is kind of cool, but it can't do very much. You could grab an object on the floor, close a door, open a door. These might have occasional value. Beyond the 10-foot reach, there's not a lot going here. One thing that's really nice about the Plasmoid, though, is you have resistance to 2 damage types. There are a couple races in the game that have this, and you are one of them. Acid and poison, both reasonable damage types to resist. Poison is going to be the more common of the two, but acid isn't unheard of. Holding the breath is okay, and that only leaves us with one feature that must be the one that I think is deceptively powerful, and that's amorphous. You can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide, provided you are wearing and carrying nothing. You have advantage on ability checks you make to initiate or escape a grapple. So here's a somewhat typical D&D battle map. And so we have our plasmoid character right here. And let's say they're small size and not wearing or carrying anything. So on their turn, they take their actions as normal, and then they're going to do their movement. So what do? Well, if there's a 1 inch gap in any of these crates, they can just seep into the crate. And then they're going to have full cover until the beginning of their next turn, at which point they're going to move out and take their actions and then seep back into the crate again. Or maybe it's one of these vases that you're going to seep into. One of the other characters could carry around a small-sized chest with a 1-inch keyhole. You could seep into that. Never mind the various utility things of being able to move through a 1-inch space. Those are going to come up all the time. But just in combat itself, this could be a massive advantage for your character. And then you have advantage on ability checks made to initiate or escape a grapple. And that also is pretty good. And if I'm making a character that is unarmored and not carrying anything, then grappling is probably a pretty good option for me. So I think both of those things are pretty good, but especially the squeezing through the 1-inch space. I would be small sized even though I couldn't grapple as many creatures, just to take more advantage of being able to squeeze into things that maybe I wouldn't be able to if I was medium sized. Amorphous is always a trait I thought was pretty cool on oozes, and being able to apply it to a PC that I'm playing is something I am super excited to do. So how would I optimize a Plasmoid? Well, I think Amorphous is really what I would be building around. I would want to take advantage of the ability to squeeze through a 1-inch space. And in order to do that, that means I would need to not be wearing any armor, because unequipping armor just takes a long time. It's not something you can really do in combat, though you could certainly ask your DM if armor is something that you could ooze into or out of as well. Maybe you can. But assuming armor is going to be an issue, then I'd be looking for ways to make a good unarmored character. And one option right here at the very top is Barbarian. I think that Plasmoids would make pretty good Barbarians. If I would probably be medium sized then, which would maybe limit some of the things I might be able to squeeze into. But then I would have unarmored defense, which would work well. A weapon you could simply drop if you needed to. And you have the advantage on the grapple checks even when you aren't raging, as well as additional damage resistances and multiple damage resistances. I think that would work pretty well. Another one I might even consider is Druid. Like, what if you did a Moon Druid? According to Wild Shape, you retain the benefit of any features from your race, class, or other source, and can use them if the new form is physically capable of doing so. Now, it would be very reasonable for a DM to say, hey, if you are wild shaped into a beast, then you're not an ooze, and then you're not physically capable of using Amorphous. Then again, depending how you're envisioning the wild shape and how your DM envisions it, maybe you're transforming into kind of an ooze-like version of those creatures, and you could still use it. It would be something that I wouldn't count on. I would definitely talk to my DM before assuming that I could still use Amorphous when wild-shaped. Now, if I wanted to do a monk could work pretty well with a Plasmoid. In fact, I think it would work really well with a Plasmoid. The advantage on grapple checks would be useful if you're playing something like an Astral Self Monk. I would probably go for Mercy Monk myself, just because I think that Mercy Monk is the one monk that is a decent option. And then, of course, you could do a Spellcaster, because then you could wear Mage Armor, and Mage Armor isn't going to count as wearing anything, so you're going to be able to use your Amorphous, and then you can cast your spells and then ooze into something, and, you know, your concentration is going to be pretty protected if you're inside a chest when it's not your turn. So there are a number of ways I think you could optimize a Plasmoid. One way or the other, I'd be looking to take advantage of Amorphous. So again, you probably want to talk to your DM, if you do want to wear armor, about how Amorphous would interact with that armor. Maybe you can ooze out of the armor easily enough. Can you ooze into it? That might be a bigger ask. And you always can ask your DM and ask how that would work. So that is the Plasmoid. And in my next video, I will be going over the last racial option in the Spelljammer book, and that is the Thri-kreen. I hope you'll join me for that. Otherwise, until next time, I am going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.